Most supplement advice tells you what to take. Almost nobody tells you when to take them. And for some supplements, the timing gap isn't 5 to 10% difference in absorption. It can be up to 2 to 3 times difference. Your body runs on a circadian clock. Every organ, every metabolic pathway, every hormone, they all cycle through 24 hours. Some supplements work with that cycle. Some directly interfere with it if you take them at the wrong time, and some are just fat soluble, which means that without dietary fat, your body absorbs much less of them. There are 3 most important timing variables that matter: the absorption window, the circadian alignment, and avoiding contraindications between different supplements. In this video, I'm going to apply all these 3 rules to 10 of the most common supplements people take. So after watching this video, you can get the most of your supplements. Timestamps for everything are down below. Also, if you want to discover your own health percentile to know what level of health you're at with various different types of biomarkers like your fitness markers, body composition, and blood work, what are your bottlenecks and biggest weaknesses, then take the health assessment in our top 1% health community. Link in the description. The first supplement is vitamin D. Most people take vitamin D in the morning with their other supplements. They might take it with regular water or some coffee. However, that's a big mistake because vitamin D is fat soluble. Without dietary fat present, you absorb significantly less of it. It's shown that taking vitamin D with a fat-containing meal increases plasma vitamin D3 levels by 32% in the short term, and over the course of 2 to 3 months, you'll end up having 57% higher blood vitamin D levels if you take it with fat compared to not. The solution is quite simple. Just take the vitamin D with your first meal that contains some fat. It can be olive oil, it can be cottage cheese, it can be yogurt, it can be eggs. Just a little bit of fat. The second important thing for vitamin D is timing. Naturally, we would produce vitamin D during the daytime when the sun is the hottest. The highest vitamin D production would naturally occur somewhere between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. But you don't need to take your vitamin D supplements during the midday. However, taking the vitamin D in the earlier part of the day is better from the perspective of circadian rhythms. Some people say that vitamin D late in the day interrupts their sleep. The reason for that might be how vitamin D affects serotonin, which then affects melatonin. Next, we have omega-3s. These are also fat soluble, so you should take them with some fat. Yes, omega-3s themselves are fats. They come in a soft gel, so it's the fat inside. But the absorption would be slightly higher if you take it with a meal that also has some extra fat. Again, like olive oil, maybe some yogurt, etc. Research shows that taking EPA and DHA with a fat-containing meal can increase absorption by 69 to 90% compared to taking them on an empty stomach, especially for the ethyl ester formulations, which is the worst type of omega-3s, the triglyceride form being the best. There's no evidence that things like coffee, fiber, or some other foods would reduce the absorption of omega-3s, so you just have to take it with some extra fat. When it comes to timing, then it doesn't matter. You can take omega-3s any time of the day as long as you take it with some fats for optimal absorption. But for optimal sleep, you would want to stop eating a few hours before bed and not eat anything, including fats or your omega-3s. If you forgot to take your omega-3s during the day, then take the omega-3s with a teaspoon of olive oil or some nuts, but don't have a massive meal right before bed. Supplement number 3 is creatine. When it comes to creatine, then the most important thing is consistency and taking creatine every day. That's because the effects of creatine become real once your muscles are saturated with creatine over many weeks. If you megadose 20 to 25 grams of creatine every day, you reach that in a week. If you take 3 to 5 grams a day, it will happen in 4 weeks. The only difference is the speed. That's why taking creatine before a workout isn't going to do much. You can't saturate your muscles with creatine 1 hour before the workout, even if you take 30 grams of creatine. What does matter is taking creatine every day if you want to reach the muscle saturation. Mix creatine with water or any beverage you prefer. Taking it with a meal, especially one containing carbohydrates and protein, may slightly increase muscle creatine uptake, but for most people the effect is small, and daily consistency matters far more. There is some evidence that coffee and caffeine reduce creatine's effect on muscle phosphocreatine. However, that's based on only one single study that hasn't been replicated. If you want to be safe, then separate your creatine and your caffeine by about 30 to 60 minutes. One word of caution, creatine reduces sleep demand, which is why it can restore your cognition after sleep deprivation. Because of that same reason, some people report trouble sleeping when taking creatine too late in the day. For that reason, the safe window for creatine is the earlier part of the day. Next, we have another fat-soluble supplement, CoQ10 or ubiquinol. You know it already, take it with some fat for better absorption. People take CoQ10 for supporting mitochondrial function and energy production. This means that it could keep you up at night if you take it too late in the day. So the recommendation is the same as with creatine. Take CoQ10 earlier in the day, ideally with breakfast. Supplement number 5 is NAC, which is a potent antioxidant that's good for longevity. Now I know most supplements absorb better with some fat or some food, but that's not the case with NAC. NAC absorption is significantly better on an empty stomach. When you take it with a meal, food competes for the same transporters and you absorb less. The recommendation is 30 to 60 minutes before eating or between meals entirely. Another interesting circadian rhythm element is that antioxidant defense peaks in your sleep. Taking NAC and glycine before bed could potentially support that. So the best time to take NAC might actually be first thing in the morning on an empty stomach or before bed. You could also take NAC on an empty stomach before exercise, because that's been shown to increase exercise performance and delay fatigue. By the way, if you want to know what's the correct dose and timing of up to 100 supplements, then check out my new book called The New Science of Supplements on Amazon. Supplement number 6 is collagen, another popular supplement that many people take in the morning. Collagen has a very flexible timing window. You can take it with food, you can take it on an empty stomach, because collagen itself is technically food. It contains calories and amino acids. However, if you were to choose what's the absolute best time to take collagen, then it's probably 1 hour before exercise. Taking 15 grams of gelatin, which is collagen, with 48 milligrams of vitamin C 1 hour before exercise has been seen to enhance collagen synthesis more than exercise alone. A dose of 5 grams before exercise resulted in higher collagen synthesis than placebo, but 15 grams was more effective. The reason for this is because exercise impacts the joints, and the collagen probably migrates to the joints that are being exercised. So if you want collagen for joint benefits, take it before exercise. For skin anti-aging, there doesn't appear to be any difference when you take it, unless you maybe take it before microneedling that works like exercise for the skin. You can also take collagen before bed because the glycine helps with sleep. Supplement number 7 is L-theanine that many people use as a nootropic or to counteract stress and anxiety. If you're stressed or anxious, then it doesn't matter when you take theanine. You can take it before bed or even in the morning for an anxiolytic effect. People also take theanine as a nootropic with caffeine in the morning to blunt the alertness and overstimulation from caffeine. Food or coffee doesn't appear to reduce the absorption of theanine. Supplement number 8, magnesium, one of the most universally deficient minerals that a lot of people take. The glycinate and threonate are best taken 1 to 2 hours before bed. Magnesium glycinate promotes relaxation through GABA, and magnesium threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier and is often used for sleep quality and cognitive function, although the timing for threonate matters a lot less. Magnesium oxide has a bioavailability of up to 4%, so that's the worst type. If you take magnesium in the morning or midday, then it's not bad, but you're not getting the sleep benefits. You would have to take it again before bed. Taking magnesium with food can also improve the absorption slightly, or at least reduce the likelihood of getting gastrointestinal side effects. It's fine to take magnesium in the daytime, but the best time for any form of magnesium is generally going to be a few hours before bed. Supplement number 9 is glycine, which is going to complement the effects of NAC on antioxidant defense. The studies on GlyNAC or glycine and NAC are also very interesting, and they show that it helps with inflammation, mitochondrial function, body composition, and other biomarkers. Yes, you can take glycine and NAC together for a synergistic effect in terms of raising glutathione status. However, NAC and glycine alone will already raise glutathione, so you don't need to combine them. Plus, taking glycine in the morning on an empty stomach might make some people feel nauseous because glycine is very sweet and it lowers blood sugar, so you might go hypoglycemic. However, glycine is great when taken with food and meals because it lowers blood sugar and reduces glycation. Glycine also lowers body temperature and promotes relaxation, which makes it suitable to be taken before bed. So if you want to take glycine with NAC, do so before bed. It would be the best time to take glycine, and add rest of the glycine throughout the day to your meals. The last supplement is melatonin, and this is where things get interesting. Most people take melatonin 30 to 60 minutes before bed. However, this might be the probable reason a lot of people experience melatonin hangover in the morning. A 2024 meta-analysis of 26 randomized controlled trials found that the optimal timing is 3 hours before bed, not 30 minutes. Taking melatonin 3 hours before bed resulted in significantly shorter time to fall asleep compared to 30 minutes or even 1.5 hours before bed. Here's the reason. If you take melatonin early, it shifts your circadian rhythm earlier. You feel sleepy before you even get into bed, and you fall asleep faster, and you wake up without the hangover. If you take melatonin too close to bedtime, the opposite happens. You shift your circadian rhythm later, and you create the jet lag in the morning. You obviously don't want to take melatonin during the day, although there are some studies that it increases growth hormone. Taking melatonin during the day will also mess up your circadian rhythm to a certain extent. So the best time to take melatonin is 3 to 4 hours before bed, and at the absolute latest 1 hour before bed, although this isn't the most optimal as I just shared with you. How much melatonin also matters. The same meta-analysis found 3 to 4 milligrams is optimal for total sleep duration. Doses smaller than that resulted in lower sleep duration. Why not less? Because oral melatonin has about 15% bioavailability. 4 milligrams gives you roughly 0.6 milligrams absorbed, which is almost exactly what your body produces naturally. So if you take 0.1 or even 1 milligram of melatonin as a supplement, you're going to absorb a lot less. So here's the full timing map. Fat-soluble vitamins with fat, NAC on an empty stomach, creatine daily, anytime pretty much, except too close to bed, magnesium, glycine, and melatonin in the pre-sleep window, and theanine based on your goals, either for sleep or as a nootropic, but any time is generally fine. Timing isn't everything, but if you're already spending money on these supplements, it costs you nothing to take them at the right time. If you want to know about all the evidence-based supplements worth taking, then check out my video where I rank 100 supplements from worst to best next.